The courtroom was suffocating with silence as the judge's gavel struck, and the audience gasped at the revelation. Reporters scribbled furiously, flashes lit the room like lightning, and the world realized Daniel Harper, once America's golden Olympic sprinter, was at the center of a crime no one could have imagined. Emily Turner, the prosecutor, said, "The evidence will show that this star built his empire on lies." Daniel clenched his jaw, his eyes shifting between rage and fear. Sarah Mitchell, his longtime manager, whispered, "Hold steady, Daniel, we can still fight this." But whispers turned to chaos as a leaked recording blared across every news outlet. Daniel's desperate voice screaming, "You don't know what I've done." The jury leaned forward, the air heavy with disbelief. A reporter muttered, "This isn't gossip, this is ruin in real time." Judge Anderson warned, "Order in the court," but the scandal had already detonated beyond these walls. Daniel's mask was cracking, and the secret threatening to destroy him had only begun to surface. The breaking news spread like wildfire, screens across America flashing the same headline, "Olympic hero on trial." Viewers stared in disbelief as Daniel Harper's image filled every channel, his once proud smile now overshadowed by shame. In living rooms, people whispered, "How could this happen?" A news anchor declared, "This is not scandal, this is devastation for a nation." Paparazzi camped outside his mansion, cameras aimed at every window waiting for a glimpse. Daniel sat alone in his holding cell, head pressed to the wall, whispers of his glory days playing in his mind. His victory lap replayed like a cruel reminder of everything he had thrown away. Emily Turner told the press, "This is about accountability, not fame." Fans who once cheered now held posters with his name crossed out, their chants turned into anger. The world was no longer his stage, it had become his cage. Daniel Harper remembered the roar of stadiums, the thunder of his name, the cameras chasing glory, not disgrace. But now the sound was silence, his achievements erased by scandal. Sarah Mitchell sat with lawyers, her hands trembling as she whispered, "They'll destroy him." Emily Turner built her case with precision, each file another nail in the coffin. Judge Anderson reviewed documents with cold eyes, his pen scratching across notes. A tabloid headline screamed, "From hero to criminal." A commentator said, "He wasn't just an athlete, he was a symbol." And now the symbol is broken. Daniel's voice cracked in his cell, "They'll never forgive me." Shadows on the wall stretched long, as if even time mocked him. The press room erupted as microphones shoved forward, voices shouting questions that blurred into chaos. Did he cheat? Was it fraud? Did he cover it up? Reporters' faces gleamed with hunger. Emily Turner stood before them, her expression cold steel, saying, "This is not about fame, this is about truth." Daniel Harper's brother, Michael Harper, tried to shield his family, whispering, "We can't go outside anymore." Sarah Mitchell was cornered by cameras, her voice cracking, "He's still human." The media force fed on every word, every gesture, their appetite insatiable. One reporter whispered to another, "This is bigger than the medals, it's about power." Daniel Harper's downfall was not just a headline, it was a spectacle. Protesters lined courthouse steps, chanting his name with venom. Placards read, "Liar, fraud, justice now." A teenager shouted, "You let us down." Michael Harper held their mother's hand as she wept quietly. Judge Anderson entered through a side door, avoiding the storm. Emily Turner whispered to an aide, "They're already convinced." Daniel stood behind bars, staring out, his lips moving silently as if in prayer. Sarah Mitchell collapsed onto a bench, unable to fight tears. The world's judgment was louder than any verdict. Long before the scandal, Daniel Harper was celebrated as the nation's pride, sprinting across Olympic tracks with unmatched speed. Crowds erupted when he broke records, waving flags as his smile lit up stadiums. Sarah Mitchell said, "He's unstoppable, he was born for this." Children dreamed of running like him. Mothers cheered his name, and reporters painted him as a perfect role model. Daniel, basking in the glory, whispered to Michael Harper, "I've made it, no one can touch me." Emily Turner, Then only a state prosecutor watching from afar once said to a colleague, "That man could inspire an entire generation." His gold medals shimmered under floodlights, and his legacy seemed untouchable. But in every bright light, shadows followed. Behind the curtain of triumph, cracks began to form. Whispers of exhaustion, deals made hastily, and choices taken in desperation were there, waiting. The world adored him, but fame had already begun to carve its price. Daniel Harper grew up in a small neighborhood where the streets were cracked and opportunities were scarce. His mother worked double shifts, whispering prayers each night. Michael Harper often carried the weight of two brothers, shielding Daniel from the worst storms. Daniel said, "One day I'll make us proud, I'll run us out of here." Neighbors recalled a skinny boy racing past broken fences, his determination stronger than hunger. Sarah Mitchell discovered him at a regional meet, astonished by his raw power. She told a sponsor, "This boy has lightning in his veins." Yet every deal came with conditions, contracts thick with fine print. Daniel signed them eagerly, unaware of how they chained him. His rise was not just victory, it was escape. But escape often leaves debts unpaid, and debts always return. His triumph carried seeds of his downfall, long before he realized it. At his peak, Daniel Harper was untouchable, gracing magazine covers and endorsing products that painted him as perfection. He smiled for cameras, but behind the lights, exhaustion gnawed at him. Sarah Mitchell told him, "Just one more event. It's what keeps us alive." Daniel forced a grin, whispering, "I can't stop now, not when the world's watching." Emily Turner, not yet his prosecutor, once read those interviews and muttered, "Too much shine hides too much truth." The pressure became a cage, every endorsement another weight on his shoulders. Fans saw confidence, but his reflection whispered doubt. Daniel drowned himself in endless training, refusing rest, refusing weakness. He believed the world would abandon him if he slowed down. His glory was built on sacrifice, but sacrifice became destruction, a bargain he did not understand. Michael Harper often reminded Daniel of who he was, urging him to stay grounded. Michael said, "Don't forget us, don't forget where you came from." Daniel nodded, but fame was intoxicating. Nights in luxury hotels, fans screaming his name, sponsors showering him with gifts. It was more than he had ever dreamed. Sarah Mitchell reminded him, "This is what we worked for." Yet in quiet moments, Daniel stared at the mirror, whispering, "Am I still me?" His mother's old words echoed, "Pride without humility becomes ruin." Those warnings were drowned by applause. The boy who once ran barefoot now wore shoes worth fortunes, but his soul was already slipping away. Every smile in public masked a heart heavy with contradictions. The world saw gold, but inside, Daniel felt the shadows creeping closer. The seed of corruption began with a whisper, not a roar. Contract signed in desperation, a sponsor with hidden motives, and a promise that seemed harmless. Daniel Harper said, "I'll do whatever it takes." Sarah Mitchell's silence grew heavier, her eyes often avoiding his. Michael Harper noticed the change, warning, "Be careful, some deals are poison." Emily Turner, long before the trial, once remarked in a lecture, "The greatest crimes often begin with small compromises." Daniel's compromises began stacking, his victories tied not just to his legs but to unseen debts. The media cheered louder, but Daniel's nights grew darker. He stared at trophies that no longer looked like triumph but like chains. The foundation of his empire was already cracking, though the world had yet to see it. The cracks in Daniel Harper's life widened as whispers became rumors, and rumors became headlines. Late-night shows mocked him, tabloids screamed betrayal, and fans began turning their backs. Sarah Mitchell said, "Daniel, this is getting out of control." He snapped, "They don't know me. They only know what they're told." Michael Harper pleaded, "Brother, stop before this destroys everything." But Daniel was restless, feeding on the pressure, convincing himself that winning again would silence the noise. Emily Turner, now watching closely, muttered, "This isn't smoke anymore, this is fire." Paparazzi swarmed his every step, flashbulbs stinging like knives. A leaked photograph of him leaving a club at dawn ignited outrage. Commentators declared, "He's not the man we thought he was." The cracks were no longer invisible. They were widening into fractures, and the world was eager to watch him break. The pressure grew unbearable as endorsements dropped and contracts dissolved overnight. Daniel Harper stared at rejection letters, his hands trembling. Sarah Mitchell told him, "We can fix this, but you need to stop making it worse." He shouted, "Without them, I'm nothing." Michael Harper slammed the table. "You're more than medals, Daniel." His words echoed, but Daniel's eyes were hollow, his pride wounded deeper than any injury. Emily Turner received her first investigative tip, a quiet file filled with irregularities that made her whisper, "There's more to this story." Reporters circled his house like vultures, cameras hungry for collapse. Daniel began drowning himself in alcohol, seeking silence that never came. His glory had turned into a cage, and the keys were already gone. As the cracks deepened, friends began to vanish. Once loyal allies stopped returning calls, sponsors withdrew support, and whispers turned into knives. Sarah Mitchell said quietly, "They'll all abandon you, Daniel." He replied bitterly, "Then I'll stand alone." Michael Harper muttered, "No man stands alone forever." Emily Turner dug deeper into contracts, suspicious of sudden money trails. She told a colleague, "If we follow the paper, we'll find the truth." Daniel's rage boiled when a close friend sold his story to the tabloids, splashing private details across the front page. Fans who once cheered cried betrayal, shouting, "We believed in you." He smashed the newspaper against the wall, yelling, "They've all turned on me." But in his fury he failed to see the truth, that his choices had opened the door to every dagger now pointed at him. The media force grew more ruthless, circling like sharks tasting blood. Tabloid headlines declared, "Fall of a hero," while late-night hosts mocked his every stumble. Emily Turner reviewed evidence, saying, "The pieces are aligning. There's a crime beneath this." Daniel Harper avoided sleep, pacing rooms in darkness, muttering, "They won't bury me." Sarah Mitchell begged, "Daniel, let it go before it kills you." Michael Harper prayed silently, watching his brother unravel. Crowds gathered outside his house, chanting angrily, holding signs that read, "Fraud, Liar, and Justice." A journalist whispered, "Every move he makes is another headline." The pressure suffocated him, the cheers of yesterday replaced by jeers. Every choice Daniel made now was gasoline on a fire already roaring. The world had shifted, and Daniel Harper was its favorite spectacle of destruction. The storm reached its boiling point with a phone call that shattered the fragile silence. Daniel Harper answered, his face draining as the words echoed, "They know." His body stiffened, his world collapsing in an instant. Sarah Mitchell rushed to his side, whispering, "What happened?" He said softly, "It's over, Sarah. They found everything." Michael Harper asked, "Who called?" Daniel's shaking hands dropped the phone. Emily Turner, across town, placed the receiver down and said, "The investigation begins tonight." Outside, thunder cracked, rain pounding against windows, as if the heavens themselves condemned him. Reporters screamed into cameras, breaking news, Daniel Harper under investigation. The door that had once led him to glory now closed with a slam. His downfall had crossed the point of no return, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first shocking twist arrived when financial records surfaced, exposing hidden accounts linked to Daniel Harper. Emily Turner told her team, "This isn't just negligence, this is fraud." Sarah Mitchell stared at the documents, whispering, "No, this can't be true." Daniel slammed his fists on the table, yelling, "I never wanted it this way." Michael Harper asked softly, "Then why does your name sit on every page?" The truth was no longer just scandal. It was crime. Reporters said, "The Golden Boy has become a criminal mastermind." Daniel's image shifted overnight, from hero to liar. Sponsors who once defended him now issued public statements of betrayal. A colleague of Emily said, "This case is no longer about morality, it's about legality." The cracks had become a chasm, and Daniel Harper's secrets were finally dragging him into the abyss. The revelation grew darker when whispers tied Daniel Harper to a syndicate that laundered money through his endorsements. Emily Turner said, "He was never alone in this. He was their front." Sarah Mitchell begged, "Daniel, tell me it's not true." He shouted, I didn't know what they were hiding." Michael Harper muttered, "Ignorance doesn't erase guilt." Journalists uncovered photos linking him to figures notorious for corruption. Anchors declared, "The scandal isn't just personal. It's organized crime." Daniel's voice cracked as he said, "I thought I was running for us, not for them." The world that once adored him now painted him as a puppet, tangled in a darker web. Every denial sounded weaker. Every truth buried him deeper. The silent witness emerged, a driver who had overheard conversations that changed everything. A man in his 40s, he whispered to Emily Turner. He knew more than he ever admitted. Emily leaned in, replying, "This testimony could break the case wide open." Daniel Harper's face drained when told, "The driver is ready to speak." Sarah Mitchell wept, "Daniel, please, don't lie anymore." He growled, "They're twisting it, they're twisting everything." Michael Harper whispered, "No, brother. They're only telling what you buried." Headlines shouted, "Star betrayed by his own staff." The silent witness became the voice that echoed across the nation. Daniel's carefully crafted lies shattered in public view, and the man who once ran faster than anyone could not outrun the truth. Emily Turner unveiled the twist in court. Daniel Harper's medals were not just wins, they were paid for, shielded by money and influence. Gasps filled the courtroom. Daniel shouted, "I earned them!" Emily snapped, "You bought silence, not victory." Sarah Mitchell covered her face, whispering, "It's all over." Michael Harper shook his head, whispering, "The truth always surfaces." The jury leaned forward, eyes wide, the illusion shattered. Reporters muttered, "This is bigger than sports. This is corruption at its core." Daniel's past triumphs were erased in minutes. What once symbolized national pride was now stained beyond repair. The final twist struck when Daniel Harper's closest ally, Sarah Mitchell, admitted complicity. She whispered in court, "I knew about the contracts, I stayed silent." The room froze. Daniel stared at her, betrayal and sorrow in his eyes. He whispered, "You too." Emily Turner declared, "Even silence is guilt." Michael Harper covered his face, broken by the weight of truth. Reporters rushed out to broadcast. The manager's confession seals the star's fate. Sarah cried, "I thought I was protecting him." Daniel roared, "You destroyed me." The courtroom walls echoed with the fracture of trust. The betrayal wasn't from rivals, it was from within. The climax erupted with Daniel Harper's arrest. Sirens wailed outside as officers entered the courtroom. Judge Anderson announced, "The evidence leaves no doubt." Daniel shouted, "This isn't justice, it's slaughter." Sarah Mitchell collapsed in tears, whispering, "I'm so sorry." Michael Harper cried out, "Daniel, stop fighting." Emily Turner declared, "The law cannot bend for fame." Cameras flashed as handcuffs closed around his wrists. Outside, protesters cheered, "Justice." Reporters shouted into microphones, "The golden boy has fallen at last." Daniel's face twisted with rage and despair as he was dragged through the crowd. The image of triumph was gone. In its place stood ruin, bound in chains, under the judgment of the world. The trial burned hot as testimony after testimony crushed Daniel Harper's defense. Emily Turner said firmly, "The evidence is overwhelming." Daniel whispered, "They'll never see my side." Sarah Mitchell admitted, "I let him fall." Michael Harper muttered, "Truth isn't a choice, it's a fact." Journalists typed feverishly as headlines were already forming. The courtroom buzzed with tension, every gasp echoing. Reporters whispered, "This is the death of a legend." Daniel's eyes darted wildly, looking for escape, but there was none. His empire crumbled in slow motion. Every medal now, a relic of disgrace. The prosecution's final blow came with video evidence, Daniel Harper in a private meeting, signing documents tied to criminal accounts. Gasps filled the air. Daniel yelled, "It's not what it looks like." Emily Turner countered, "It's exactly what it looks like." Sarah Mitchell sobbed uncontrollably, whispering, "We're finished." Michael Harper lowered his head, unable to watch. Reporters pushed past barriers, shouting, "The star's downfall is undeniable." The jury's faces hardened, the verdict now inevitable. Judge Anderson delivered the verdict. "Guilty." The words struck like daggers. Daniel Harper whispered, "This can't be real." Sarah Mitchell screamed, "No." Michael Harper closed his eyes, tears streaming. Emily Turner said quietly, "Justice has spoken." Reporters rushed to broadcast, verdict sealed, Harper guilty on all counts. The gallery erupted with voices half in triumph, half in disbelief. Daniel's head dropped into his hands, his shoulders trembling. For the first time, silence filled the courtroom, an unbearable silence that announced the death of a legacy. As Daniel Harper was led away, flashbulbs erupted in a frenzy, every camera capturing the fall of a man once adored. Reporters shouted questions that blurred into noise. Sarah Mitchell sobbed into her hands, whispering, "We lost everything." Michael Harper said, "This isn't the end, Daniel. It's the beginning of ruin." Emily Turner stood outside, telling cameras, "This case shows no one is above the law." Protesters cheered, "Justice served." Daniel glared through the crowd, lips moving silently as if cursing the world. His medals would gather dust, his name forever etched in infamy. The verdict wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of his ruin. The mansion that once sparkled with celebration now stood hollow, its windows dark, its rooms echoing with silence. Daniel Harper sat inside, staring at empty walls once lined with trophies. He whispered, "They're gone, all of them." Sarah Mitchell stood in the doorway, her face pale, saying, "The calls stopped. No one wants to hear your name." Michael Harper walked slowly through the hall, whispering, "You had everything, and it slipped away." Outside, the gates were rusting. Reporters gone, the silence more suffocating than the shouts. Emily Turner told a colleague, "Justice doesn't end at the verdict. It lingers in what's lost." Daniel closed his eyes, haunted by echoes of stadiums, now replaced by the weight of disgrace. Reporters shifted focus, the frenzy fading as new scandals rose. Yet Daniel Harper remained trapped in his own collapse. Sarah Mitchell said, "They've already forgotten you." Daniel replied, "That's worse than hate." Michael Harper whispered, "Oblivion is colder than prison." Emily Turner in a televised interview said, "This case shows how quickly glory fades." Fans who once screamed his name now avoided it, as if his existence had become a curse. His silence grew heavier each day, his voice cracking when he whispered, "I used to be someone." The world had moved on, leaving him behind in a prison of irrelevance. The prison walls became Daniel Harper's reality, stripped of luxury, stripped of power. He shuffled in silence, eyes down as guards watched. Sarah Mitchell visited once, whispering through the glass, "I never meant to betray you." Daniel answered, "But you did." Michael Harper pressed his hand against the glass, saying, "Brother, you have to face this." Daniel's reflection looked older, haunted, his eyes carrying shadows too heavy for his years. Emily Turner, far away, said to a colleague, "The sentence was justice. The silence after is punishment." Daniel pressed his forehead to the glass, whispering, "The medals meant nothing." The world outside moved forward, but Daniel Harper's mother remained frozen in grief. She clutched his childhood medal, whispering, "You were supposed to be our pride." Michael Harper told her, "He's paying for what he chose." Sarah Mitchell sat quietly nearby, her eyes red with regret. Emily Turner, in another interview, stated, "We pursue justice, not vengeance, but the cost is always human." Daniel lay in his prison cell staring at the ceiling, hearing phantom cheers that once defined his life. He muttered, "I ran for them, but they'll only remember how I fell." The applause was gone, leaving only silence. The final resolution was not redemption, but ruin carved in silence. Daniel Harper whispered to himself, "I wasn't destroyed by enemies. I was destroyed by myself." His words echoed off prison walls, heavier than chains. Sarah Mitchell stood outside, watching the gates close, her hands trembling. Michael Harper turned away, whispering, "This is the cost of choices." Emily Turner filed away the case, whispering, "Justice done, but scars remain." The fans never came back. The medals gathered dust, and the legend was rewritten as tragedy. Daniel closed his eyes, whispering one last time, "I was once a hero." The silence answered, unforgiving. The world moved on, but Daniel Harper remained trapped in silence. A magazine cover once showing his glory was now replaced with his mugshot. Daniel whispered, "From hero to ghost." Sarah Mitchell stood outside the prison wall, whispering, "I destroyed him as much as he destroyed himself." Michael Harper told reporters, "There is no redemption in denial." Emily Turner, when asked about closure, replied, "Justice does not end pain, it only records truth." Fans who once screamed his name now spoke of him as caution. His life was no longer his own, it was a warning, carved into memory like a scar. Inside his prison cell, Daniel Harper carved words into the wall, "Faster than them all." He whispered, "But not faster than myself." Guards glanced, unimpressed, as his once legendary aura dissolved into routine. Sarah Mitchell told Michael Harper, "He doesn't even fight anymore." Michael whispered, "The fight is gone when the world no longer believes." Emily Turner said to a colleague, "He was convicted by evidence, but destroyed by pride." Daniel stared at the wall, lost in shadows. His legend had not ended in fire, but in silence, where cheers once echoed. A documentary aired across the nation, replaying Daniel Harper's rise and fall. Clips of golden victories contrasted with courtroom shame. A narrator said, "He ran faster than anyone but couldn't escape himself." Emily Turner appeared on screen declaring, "Truth is heavier than fame." Sarah Mitchell's interview showed her weeping, saying, "I thought silence was loyalty." Michael Harper added, "He was my brother, but he was his own downfall." Millions watched, stunned, as the final image lingered. His face, once victorious, now hollow. The broadcast ended with silence, leaving living rooms across America breathless. Outside the prison gates, protesters had long disappeared, leaving only emptiness. Daniel Harper was escorted briefly into the yard, where the sky stretched gray. He whispered, "Even silence is louder than cheers." Sarah Mitchell told Michael Harper, "His punishment is not the bars, it's the absence of an audience." Emily Turner, reviewing another case, told her colleague, "Every downfall echoes into the next." Michael Harper muttered, "He's alive, but the man he was is gone." The wind rustled cold through the fences, carrying away the last fragments of glory. The final blow came not with noise, but with silence. Daniel Harper sat alone, staring at the barred window as moonlight cut across his face. He whispered, "I was destroyed by myself." Sarah Mitchell cried in the distance, "Hell never returned." Michael Harper told reporters, "He is a reminder of how fast heroes fall." Emily Turner closed her final file, saying, "This story is finished, but its scars remain." The last shot lingered on Daniel's hollow eyes, empty yet haunted. The world would never cheer for him again. The legend was gone. Only the ruin remained.